How can you invest and make money in today's real estate market? Welcome to the Successful Investor Show, where we talk with successful real estate investors, business owners, and busy professionals on their journey to wealth. They share their best ways and advice to make massive gains in today's market. Make sure you are subscribed so you never miss an episode. Now, here is your host, Daron Nissim.
Welcome everyone to the Successful Investor Show, where we talk about how to possibly invest and create passive income and generational wealth. I'm your host, Daron Nissim, and today I have the pleasure to welcome our guest, David Perez. David, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Great to see you. David has been in the real estate since 2015. He had a major loss and started to invest in single-family houses in 2018. After he'd been to fortune builders, actually mentoring. So David, tell us about your journey in real estate.
Yes, actually, my experience started off in 2015. I hit a big loss, wound up getting back to zero. And then in 2018, I wound up signing up with fortune builders. And I wanted to, this time, educate myself and learn how to do things the right way. So after flipping about 35 homes from 2018 to right around 2020, I realized that flipping homes was not always that easy. You know, you win some, you lose some, and it's a battle. You know, the ones you do win, you do good. And then the ones you do lose, then you lose all your money. So it was kind of like this vicious cycle. And then in 2019, I went up to San Jose. There was a real estate conference up there. And I was headlining Tony Robbins. So I was going more for the motivation, the connections, the networking. And that's when I saw Grant Cardone on stage. And Grant Cardone's message was, you know, generational wealth and passive income was the key to success. His motto was, you know, it's not a get rich quick game. It's a get rich quick for sure. And those words really resonated with me. And so I started following Grant Cardone. And shortly after, in 2020, I bought my first 16-unit apartment complex, and that was, you know, everything took off from there.
Wow, that's amazing. So you started in 2018 again, and you flipped 35 homes. And
yeah.
then, let's go back a little bit. You said you had a major loss in 2015. What can you tell us about it, and what did you learn from that loss?
You know, it was in the medical marijuana business. And, you know, certain things happened and wound up losing everything.
Wow.
But after that, I learned that I needed a foundation. I also got hit in 2008 in the real estate crash. And that kind of steered me away. And I got a little gun shy from real estate. But then after hitting 2015, I was like, okay, real estate truly is the way to make myself a millionaire. And that was my ultimate goal. You know, I got tired of, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I just got up again and, you know, got into the game and really just went for it.
Wow. So after that journey and you came back in 2018, basically, you decided to flip single family houses. And then seeing Grant Cardone talking about multifamily, you decided you're going to go to multifamily. So how was that, you know, transfer from single to multi? How did that happen, basically?
Honestly, it was the toughest thing I ever had to do in my entire life. And, you know, going back into single family homes, I was motivated and I wanted to educate myself. So I looked for mentoring, and I knew mentoring was going to be my secret, you know, because I did it by myself and I lost. I didn't understand. So now I wanted to get educated. I paid for my education. I surrounded myself with people that were better than me. They had the money. I had zero, but I had the hunger. That's something that they didn't have. And my mentor, Grant, he always tells me 80% of success is just showing up, you know, just being in the right spot at the right time. And those were the key words. And that was my true ability. You know, I didn't have the money, but I could show up, and I was hungry. You know, I was hungrier than everybody else. Of course, I was starving. You know,
that's a good motivation right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like with single family homes and fortune builders, it was really mundane. It was really slow. You know, you could make some money, but there was a lot of risk. You know, you had to risk a lot. You had to go borrow other people's money. And then when Grant got on stage, it just really lit a fire in me. You know, I really related to him in the sense that he was down to earth, and I could really see being taught by this guy. Like, he was just sitting there speaking all the right words, and he's a great speaker, you know, but he's even a better mentor, you know. And then I was like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. And he made me believe in my ability, you know.
Right.
And all the right things was, you know, just show up, just show up. That's 80%, just show up. And so I started to just show up, you know. And then I started listening to him on YouTube mentally, and then all I could hear was 16 units, 16 units. So that whole year in 2020, I didn't make a move until the end of the year. And I bought my first 16 unit right before COVID hit. And that was a big risk. So COVID was hitting. I had a duplex in San Diego. I had another couple single family homes, and, you know, I got wiped out with an investor partner that ripped me off. So that really motivated me. And then I just put my duplex up for sale, and I was like, okay, I'm not losing. And then when that sold, I made $125,000 profit. And I combined my down payment with my profit. And then I 1031 that into my first 16 unit apartment complex.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the transition. You know, it was a huge leap of faith, but all I could hear was my mentor behind me saying, you know, 16 units, 16 units, 16 units. And then I went for it.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on two very good points. One of them is having a mentor to show you. Basically, they show you how simple it is to do what you want to do, but you're always afraid to do. And
Right.
the second that you talked briefly is having a partner. Basically, your partner kind of screwed you up. So what can you tell us about having partners and
you know,
that experience?
real estate's a risk. Okay. And for every one bad partner, there's 5 good ones out there. You know, so you got to kiss a lot of frogs to meet your prince, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's basically the bottom line. What that did, though, was that loss really fired me up. And I was like, oh, hell no, this is never going to happen again. You know, so it made me a little bit more cautious, but it also created a bigger risk in me. And then I just had to find the right mentor to teach me how to open that up and move forward. You know, like most people, when they get a loss, they step back and then they don't move forward, or they don't get back up. Well, then I start listening to YouTube, like motivational speeches. And even to this day, like if I'm having a bad day or I feel a little down, you know, I put an hour on in the morning and I put an hour on at night, and it's just all about mindset, you know. And that's what really took me to the edge, was my mentor and then the mindset change.
Right. I mean, real estate, they say it's a mind game, basically. It's everything in your mind. You can be super successful and still think you're not successful. You can be like really bad, but think you're a success, and you're going to be success. So it's a mind game. It's everything in your mind. So
No, absolutely. That's what it taught me, was really, okay, yeah, I got hit, but you know what? I'm getting back up. I'm coming back 10 times stronger. You can't keep me down. And then when I start having that mentality, that's when I was like, okay, how do I really do this? And I remember selling my property because the tenants actually weren't paying rent. So they fell behind about 4 months. And I was like, oh shit, this is '08 all over again. And in '08, I lost like 4 or 5 million, you know? So then I was like, man, I'm going through this it's a cycle. So then I was like, okay, I got to listen to my mentor. And then I took that, I 1031'd it, and the guy was asking $1.5 million. And since I only had $250,000, I can only offer 999, because, you know, real estate will only buy you 4 times more. So I made the offer. My real estate agent was like, oh my God, you're embarrassing me. I was like, look, I don't care, man. This is all I got.
Exactly.
And so we made the offer. 3 days later, this guy calls me back and he's like, when can you close? I was like, holy shit, what's wrong with this property? You know, he reduced the price by 30%. And I was like, okay, there has to be some problems. And, you know, then we closed on the deal. I actually bought that one sight unseen, just because it was $960,000. And I was like, where do I get a 16 unit for $960,000? Nowhere.
Definitely not in California.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I buy in Florida. So, you know, then I flew out about a month after I bought it. And I literally cried because I drove up to the property and I was like, oh my God, I bought the ghetto. This was a real shithole. It was pink and the doors were like this Tony Montana bright orange, and I just put
Wow.
my head down and I had tears coming out of it. And then all of a sudden the manager, he was upstairs. He goes, hey, you must be Mr. Perez. And I was like, wiping my eyes. And he goes, you okay? And I go, yeah, I'm fine, And then I went up to the first unit and it was just really bad. And I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? It was my first one. So I really had no idea what I was doing. But I just heard my mentor, 16 units, 16 units, 16 units. And then that day I went to Walmart. I bought a bunch of clothes, masks, gloves, lots of bleach, and I just came in the next day, rolled up my sleeves, and I started cleaning out the unit. Then some Mexican guys came up that were my tenants, and they were like, oh, you need help. And I was like, yes, I don't know anybody. It was my first time in Florida. And so he sent his wife up, and his wife and daughter came up to help clean. And they ran out screaming because it was so like dirty and bug infested. And they were like, we don't do bugs, And then he came back, he apologized, and they sent his son up. He goes, how much you paying? I go, I'll do, 14, 15 bucks an hour. And his son comes running up in flip-flop shorts and a tank top. He's like, oh, I don't care about bugs. I'll clean, if that's a good pay. And so me and his 15-year-old son wound up cleaning that place in 3 days. And then it took me about 8 days to remodel it. It was renting for $700 when I first got the place. I gave the guy cash for keys to get out. And when he left, after 8 days of remodeling, I wound up renting it to my first tenant, and she was paying $1,000 a month. So it's $300 over what I bought it at.
That's a great bump.
Yeah. And then, I just started methodically doing it to every unit. Then COVID hit, and then I couldn't evict people. So then 10 out of 16 of my first, apartment complex weren't paying. So I started losing money right away. I was losing approximately $5,000 or $6,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And then I had to give up my apartment in San Diego just so I could pay mortgage so these guys could live for free. And that was the government handling their stuff. And so I talked to my attorney, and we found a way to evict people through violation of the lease. So what I had to do was I actually had to build cases on each one of my tenants that I wanted out. And I would tell the tenants around them, I was like, look, I need pictures, I need police reports, I need, videos, anything you can get me to build a case. And I was so surprised on how helpful they were. Something would happen, they would call me up, or they'd send me a video. They'd all write letters. We want this tenant out, And so methodically, I was able to evict 12 people out of the 16 units.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great way to have your other tenants help you evicting the bad tenants, because they want a safe place. They want to live in a quiet, safe place, and they don't want people that, troublemakers. So
exactly. And the landlord prior to me, I think what he was doing was he was just filling the spaces with anybody.
Right.
So a lot of these people were disability. They weren't paying. They didn't have the ability to pay. And so he left me with a big mess, But around 9th month, around the 4th month, I broke even. Around the 6th month, I start making small profit. By the 9th month, I was actually making $6,000 a month profit. So I completely, now that bill brings me $9,000 a month, and it just appraised for $2 million.
That's amazing. So you bought it at 960, you said?
Mm-hmm.
960 you bought it? And just appraised
at 900 at $2 million.
$2 million.
Yeah.
3 years later. That's amazing.
Actually 2 years later. Yeah. So, and then I cashed out, refinanced, and then I bought the one next door to me. So now that first 16 unit I own with no money at my own in it.
So you found that one in 2020, and now you bought the next one, which is another 16 unit right next to it. So actually now you own a 32 unit property, basically.
Yep, 100% by myself.
So that's amazing. How did you find the other one?
It's kind of funny because I found the first one on LoopNet, out of all places. Bought that one, then I did that. Right around September, I started to break even, make money. And then December, I was like, man, I haven't been on LoopNet in a long time. So I jumped on LoopNet day one, December 1st, and this thing had just posted that same morning. And
Wow.
I dropped everything. I called my broker. I was like, I want that. That's my deal. And that whole year when I was fixing up the left side of the complex, the first one, I kept telling everybody, I'm going to buy that one. I'm going to buy that one. I'm going to buy that one. So I was kind of like putting it out there, just telling the universe, this is what I want. And, I was kind of half joking, but I'm more serious than joking. And then when it, when I
talk about wishful thinking.
Exactly. Got to think it and become it, and then you have to act, and so that's what I did. And the funny part is I had $500 in my bank account when I called my broker, and he goes, well, you need proof of funds. I go, dude, just send my LOI. And at the time I didn't even know what an LOI was. I was like, dude, just send my offer. And he's like, where's your proof of funds? I go, don't worry about that. I go, you just get this deal tied up and I'll worry about the rest of it, And so he sent my LOI, and they were asking $1.5 million for that one as well. And I think we wound up, he took my LOI, and my LOI at first I said 1.1 because I was, you got to hit them low. And then he came back at 1.45, and then I came up to 1.3. And he goes, you know what, let's just stop this game and we'll meet in the middle, 1.35. And I go, done, do the deal. And I had no proof of funds, $500 in my account, but I was cashing out refinancing. I had just started the process. So I told my broker, I go, I need as much time as possible. And so he gave me, I think it was like 45-day inspection and then a 30-day close, which was 2.5 months. And that's kind of what really helped me out, So I was able to go through my cash out refinance. Then I came up about $150,000 short. And so then I went on Facebook and I was like, man, I start telling everybody my story, my dream, what I wanted. And then next thing I know, there was this Brad, this football coach from Illinois. He started watching me on Facebook. And then he calls me up one day and he's like, oh my God, I want to be like you. You're doing it. I love your story. What can you teach me? And then I was like, man, I don't really have time for this right now. I got to raise money. And he goes, well, that's why I called. He goes, I got 30 grand. I go, oh, you got my attention now. And then we start talking and I go, I apologize. I go, I'm just stressed out, and I just really need to focus. And he goes, this is my tax money. He goes, I don't know if I could really do this. And I go, well, if you know anybody interested, let me know. So I get a phone call in the morning. It's, it's probably like 8:00 his time. It's 5:30 in the morning, my time. And he goes, call me when you're up. He goes, I got a message for you. And so I was just kind of like a little defeated. I call him up and he goes, I decided to help you. I'm going to send you my 30 grand today without a contract, without anything. This guy sends me, I never even met the guy, sends me 30 grand, wires it to me that day. And then he goes, oh, I need a contract, So then I had my attorney draw up the contract and, I gave him a straight 10% on his investment, and I told him, I go, it's only going to be 45, 50 days. Well, I did have another property. And so I listed that for sale. And, eventually that sold. And then I had to raise another 100 grand. So I raised the other 100 grand from another investor and somebody I never met before on Facebook. And it all just came together. And the ironic thing was then the purchase got delayed a little bit, which helped me out even more. And I was able to sell my beach house in Jacksonville. I made $160,000 profit on that, which was exactly what I needed to close the deal. So I wound up paying the investors back. I never used their money, but I paid them their 10% interest just because they made me feel comfortable.
Wow. And so it was a perfect transition from single family, taking the money, putting it into multifamily and actually multiplying the money.
Well, I wouldn't say it was a perfect transition. It was like me jumping off the cliff blindfolded, you know what I'm saying? And
well, now like, in hindsight, you see it was perfect. Everything aligned. So,
but yeah, exactly. And what I had to do was I had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to put myself around more successful people than me. And then I had to really just go for it. I had to take massive action.
Yeah.
And that is really 80% of the deal. And I just kept listening to Grant Cardone. Like every day I'd put him on, and any day that I felt like fearful, or I had doubt in my head or in my heart, or, multiple times I wanted to just cancel the deal and give up. And then I would put beast mode from motivation, YouTube. I would listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger, I would listen to Sylvester Stallone, Jim Rohn, anybody. I was like,
war mode.
Put something in my ear.
Yes, definitely. Getting into the war mode. I mean, anything that can help you get out of your comfort zone and take the massive action, basically, because your mind will always want you to go back to your comfort zone, the safe mode, and no risks. But yeah, that's
and
awesome.
I tell you, that's what really saved me, because anytime like I wanted to give up, I'd put my headphones on and I'd go for an hour walk, and it'd be an hour of just mental, positive, you can do this, you're the lion, you're the warrior, you won the battle, you know what I'm saying? And then that's what really changed me.
Yeah. I mean, it will change you. Hear that every day, it will change you.
Now, it's funny because I drive from Paso Robles to San Diego a lot, okay? Because I flip homes in California still, but I take my profit and I go to Florida, and that's where I make my money. I love Florida.
That's a great. It's a great strategy to taking your money out of one market and putting it in a different market, which is a good market, but outside of your area, and actually putting the money on steroids, growing the money in a different area. Yeah.
Well, over these last 2 years, I made $2.5 million in equity just doing what I do. That's just on those apartment complexes, 32 units. And now I have a passive income of about $18,000 a month, and that's all because I went out of my comfort zone, out of my backyard, and I just get on a plane. It's if I get a direct flight, it's 5 hours. If I have a layover, it's 8 to 9. I just bring a good book, like one of the big books I read is this right here, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, great book.
So that, it's a wonderful book, and it's just, I keep reading it over and over and over. And every time I read it, there's something new. So I'm constantly improving.
Yeah, I love the journey and the story from transitioning into a failed business into single family houses, and then into multifamily houses, and now having equity of about $2.5 million in only 3 years. It's amazing. Yeah. So let's move to the fire route of 4 questions and help our successful investors, viewers, make more money. So
absolutely.
Let's do it. The first question that I have for you is, what are the 3 best success habits that you have, that you do?
Listen, learn, and apply, and find your mentor.
That's awesome.
Because if you really want to be successful, you don't recreate the wheel. You find someone that's doing it, you listen to them, you learn from them, and you apply their methods. And that's all I did. I listened to Grant Cardone, I learned from him, and then I went out like a massive lion and I attacked it, and that's what made me successful.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good strategy. The second question I have for you, what's a good resource that you use in your business or in general to be successful?
Mine really is reading books. That's one thing that really changes my mindset a lot. I listen to Grant Cardone like religiously. Fortune builders, I kind of dropped off the bandwagon on fortune builders, and I use a lot of YouTube, their motivational speeches. Every day, like when I'm taking my long drives, I'll put that on for 2 or 3 hours, and it's amazing how I feel for the next day or two. And meditation, I do a lot of yoga, meditation, and what that does for me is it focuses me on where I really want to go in my life.
Right. Yoga can fix your mind.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Plus, it's great stress relief.
All right, let's move to the next one. What are your 3 tips for making money in real estate in today's market?
Learn from more experienced people than yourself. You have to reposition yourself around more successful people. So people that are doing it, people that have more than you. I'm in this real estate club, and even though I have a couple $1 million in equity, I'm like the smallest fish there. Everyone else around me is like 10, 20, 30 million. And I just look at these guys and I'm like, one day I'm going to be there. Right now I'm in the back of the room, right? But I'm slowly but surely my seat's going forward, And then the other one is, honestly, take massive action. That's truly the key to success.
Right. Definitely. You have to take action to be successful, and surround yourself with successful people so you can learn from them and have them push you forward and be there with them.
Yep. Just got to show up, buddy.
Yeah. All right. So the last question that I have for you for today is, for people that have full-time job but still want to invest in real estate but have no time, what is your advice for them to do?
My advice is really to find somebody like me. I'm committed 100%. This is what I do for a living now. I look for multifamily deals, and I look for investors to come in on the deals. So that'd be perfect. Right now, I'm targeting doctors and lawyers because they have the money, but they don't have the time. And pilots, I think that's what you were suggesting. And so that's kind of the people that I'm looking for, that have the capital, don't have the time. Now I'm the boots on the ground. I create the equity. I create the passive income. And so they really have to team up with somebody. And when you do that, you can grow faster. And that's one thing that I've learned about partnerships. Even though I've had a couple partnerships that went south, partnerships is what brought me to where I'm at today. I own my 32 units all by myself because I did partnerships on all my other deals. And so I would profit from that deal, but I would put it way over here. Then I'd profit from that deal and I'd put it over there. And then before you knew it, I had my 32 units. So it's steps. You got to grow in steps. You just don't go from 0 to 4.5 million overnight. This took me, I started in 2018, it's 23. So we're looking at what, five years total.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The learning, then I had to apply, then I took massive action,
Yeah.
and that's really the success, So it's really finding somebody that you believe in, that you feel comfortable with, and that you can grow together. And now that's what I'm trying to teach people is, you start off with, like I started off with a duplex, then I 1031 that into a 16 unit. Then I cashed out, refinanced, and I bought the 16 unit next door to me. Now I have my 32 unit, and all that took was 2 years.
Wow.
It took me a year to get this, maybe 2 years to get the single family to the duplex, then another 2 years to get to the duplex to the 32 units. So altogether, that was a 4-year span, but now look where I'm at, now I'm sitting there going, hey, come with me and let's repeat the process. Right. So I'm actively looking for investors that want to come in and do this process.
That's awesome. So if people want to get in touch with you and invest with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can. I have my email is DP, like David Perez, invested@gmail.com. And my direct cell phone number is 858-457-1221. And I think can we post that on a picture or?
Yes, definitely we'll post it. So what's the next property that you're looking to buy?
My goal this year is 100 units. 100 units. I want a 100-unit apartment. Yeah. Whether I get that in like 25, 25, 25 or a 50 and a 50, doesn't matter. I want 100 units this year, and that's my goal. And then from there, within 5 years, I'm going to reach $100 million with 2,000 units.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a great goal,
so
and I'm sure you can reach
2028.
it. Yeah. So until 2028, you want to have about $100 million in asset under management, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really easy to do. Like right now, since 2008, I started off with 0. Currently, I have about $8 million in assets, and that's only the last 4 years. It's the first 5 years that's the toughest. That's what I've learned, because you're really building your foundation. Once you build your foundation, once you get to that $10 million mark, then the sky's the limit,
right.
And it's just, it's just basically doing what you did in the beginning, but adding zeros.
Yeah. And multifamily and commercial properties is basically the best vehicle to get you to where you want in the shortest amount of time. Single family is great, but it's slow. But multifamily is like single family on steroids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Multiplied by the doors. And
the other one is storage units. Oh my God, those things make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of like my next avenue, multifamily storage units.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, David. This was amazing. And I'm sure our listeners, viewers will have a lot of insight and will learn a lot from you. And I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, even if it's just a quick phone call or you want something answered, I'm available and I like to share.
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Successful Investor Show. If you're enjoying this podcast, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us on the next episode of the Successful Investor Show.